what if the person you share a bed with, or the person you've known since kindergarten,
Right.
like the person who would literally take a bullet for you, what if they are entirely disqualified from being your true soulmate?
I mean, it is a profoundly unsettling thought. We basically build our entire lives around the assumption that, shared history and mutual sacrifice are the very foundations of our deepest connections.
Yeah, totally. Which is exactly why today's deep dive is going to, well, challenge everything you think you know about the architecture of human relationships.
It really is.
I'm your host, and today we're looking at a pretty radical philosophical text. It was written in March 2020 by Feng, and it was translated by Kinyu and edited by Bandy. It's titled simply, Where to Find a Bosom Friend.
And we should probably establish right away, this is not a modern pop psychology guide.
Right, no 5 tips for better boundaries here.
Exactly. It's not about building a better network. It's this poetic, almost brutal exploration of attachment, the self, and just the incredibly elusive nature of what they call a true bosom friend.
It really forces a complete paradigm shift. Because, for you listening, your mission today is to follow us down this rabbit hole and ask, what happens when you strip away every single layer of mutual utility and social obligation from a relationship?
Yeah, what is actually left when you take all that away?
That is the perfect entry point, I think, because we throw terms around all the time, like soulmate or BFF.
No, constantly.
But Feng's text suggests we were talking about a completely different stratosphere of human connection here.
Mm-hmm.
The opening lines basically establish that this isn't just someone you have a lot in common with.
Right.
The text actually states that it's far easier to make a massive amount of money, like to amass great wealth, than it is to find this one specific type of connection.
And, the contrast with wealth there is deeply intentional because wealth is something you can strategize for, right?
Like you can hustle for it.
Exactly. You can study the markets, work your 80-hour weeks, systematically build a fortune. But the text explicitly notes that a bosom friend is this rare gem that you cannot ask for, and you cannot work to get it. It exists entirely outside the realm of human effort or striving, or even merit. You basically can't put in your 10,000 hours to earn this bond.
Which completely undercuts our whole modern productivity mindset.
Oh, 100%.
We are so used to the idea that if we just join the right clubs, use the right dating apps, or go to enough networking events, we can engineer a connection.
You can't.
Right. And the text paints these incredibly atmospheric visions of what this bond actually feels like, and they are entirely devoid of effort.
Yeah, the imagery is really
It
striking.
uses these ancient-sounding images,
Yeah.
like meeting a lone traveler on a cold mountain road, or sitting late at night by candlelight and feeling like the entire experience is just a dream.
Notice the common thread in those images, though. It's silence and spontaneous presence. There's a specific line I love that notes, "Without any word, my heart is drunk. No need for wine."
Drunk without wine. That's beautiful.
It really is. It describes a connection that doesn't require constant verbal validation or the friction of, constant communication. The mere presence of the other person fundamentally alters your internal chemical state.
Like an energetic resonance rather than just an exchange of data.
Exactly.
And there's that striking moment in the text where it describes wanting to give a memorial to this friend, but realizing no physical object could possibly encapsulate the feeling.
So they just offer a simple plum blossom.
But plum blossom, yeah. But that actually brings us to an anecdote mentioned in the source material that really made me stop and, evaluate the mechanics of this bond.
Oh, the story of Boya.
Yes. The text references this ancient story. It says, in memory of Zongziki, Boya won't play any music again.
Right. So Boya was a master musician, and Zongziki was his bosom friend. Literally the only person who truly understood the soul of Boya's music.
But wait, if we look at the psychology of that reaction, isn't that incredibly dangerous?
Oh,
Well, if losing this person makes you literally give up your life's passion to never play music again, that sounds less like a healthy, supportive dynamic and more like a total collapse of individual identity.
I see what you mean.
Like, why should we aspire to a connection that has the power to break us that fundamentally?
Because, the text is proposing that true art and true expression requires a perfect receiver.
Okay, a perfect receiver.
Yeah. When Boya loses Zhangziki, he doesn't just lose a fan or a buddy. He loses the acoustic environment in which his soul's language makes sense.
Oh, wow.
Think of it mechanically, right? If you are the only person on Earth who speaks a highly complex language and the only other speaker dies.
Continuing to speak it into the void is just making noise.
Exactly. The music loses its meaning because the mechanism of true resonance is just gone. And yes, it strips away all your psychological armor, but the text argues that this absolute vulnerability is the only environment where a relationship like this can actually exist.
It's like the ultimate tuning fork effect. You strike the metal, and only one specific object in the room vibrates at the exact same frequency.
That's a great way to put it.
But because this frequency is so rare, we really have to talk about the search. Like, if it's this profound, where do we actually look for it?
Well, this is where the text pivots from all that poetic imagery into a highly specific, almost shocking geography of exclusion.
It gives us a definitive list of where a bosom friend absolutely cannot be found.
Right. It systematically dismantles the structures where we spend the majority of our lives. It starts with the obvious ones, of course. You won't find them in official places, business places, casinos, battlefields.
Or courts, markets, bars, which honestly makes sense.
Yeah, no surprises there.
I don't think anyone listening is expecting to meet their soul's exact mirror while, negotiating a corporate contract or sitting at a blackjack table.
Definitely not. Those are environments built entirely on strategy and transactional logic.
But then the text goes so much further. It says, and this is a direct quote, "No bosom friend can be found among family, friendship, friends, classmates, or colleagues."
It's a huge claim.
And it even rules out political parties and religious organizations.
It literally removes every traditional pillar of human community.
And that requires a massive pause. I mean, for you listening right now, think about the people you hold dearest. The text is arguing that a sibling, a spouse, or someone you shared a decades-long friendship with is structurally disqualified from this category.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
It is. And it all boils down to one unifying mechanism the text identifies. Quote, "Wherever interests are entangled, no bosom friend can be found."
Yes, this is the operational core of Swifang's philosophy right here. We really have to unpack that mechanism of an entangled interest.
So why does sharing a life preclude this pure bond?
Because the moment interests entangle, a system of mutual reliance is born. And mutual reliance inevitably breeds expectations.
Expectations, standards, roles.
Exactly. You start needing things from each other.
I was actually thinking about how to visualize this, and it feels like the difference between two co-pilots flying a commercial airliner versus two passengers sitting in the cabin just looking out different windows at the same beautiful sunset.
Oh, I really like that analogy. Let's walk through the psychology of those co-pilots.
Well, so the co-pilots might respect each other deeply, right? They might even love each other.
Yeah.
But their relationship is fundamentally entangled.
Because if one of them makes a mistake,
They both crash. Exactly. Therefore, they have to constantly monitor each other. They have to evaluate performance, set standards, demand utility. Like, are you doing your job so that we survive?
right.
But the two passengers watching the sunset have zero operational reliance on one another. If one passenger falls asleep, the other can still enjoy the sunset. The appreciation is entirely free of utility.
And that evaluative lens of the co-pilot is exactly what exists in a family or a marriage. I mean, a family is a beautiful, necessary ecosystem, but it is an ecosystem of logistics.
Who's taking out the trash? Who's paying the bills?
Exactly. You need your spouse to pay half the mortgage, to co-parent effectively, to fulfill a specific role so your shared life doesn't crash. You need your colleagues to perform so the business survives.
Even your religious or political group members have to adhere to a shared dogma to maintain the group.
Precisely. The text argues that the moment your well-being or your finances or social standing rely on someone else, you can no longer see them clearly. You are viewing them through the distorted lens of your own needs.
You aren't seeing them. You're seeing their utility in your life.
Yes.
But, I mean, if we follow that logic to its conclusion, it implies that pure appreciation can only happen in a total vacuum of expectation, which sounds beautiful in theory, but we live in the physical, practical world.
We do.
How on earth do you maintain a relationship with another human being with absolutely zero entangled interests?
Well, the short answer is you cannot do it in the physical spaces we've discussed, which is why the text moves us entirely out of the physical geography of daily life and into an intangible geography.
Okay, so it asks, where is my bosom friend? And the answer is not a location on a map.
No. The text states they reside in your life channel, in your soul, in your spirit, and in the act of happily playing with your friends.
Let's break down that concept of the life channel. It sounds almost like a an energetic bandwidth,
Yeah.
a frequency that you tune into that has literally nothing to do with the physical logistics of where you live or what you do for a living.
Exactly. It's a space of pure resonance. And that concept of happily playing is vital here too.
How so?
Well, in psychological terms, true play is what we call an autotelic activity, meaning it's an activity done entirely for its own sake, rather than as a means to an end.
So play has no utilitarian purpose.
Right. No agenda, no entangled interests, you just do it to do it.
And to protect this intangible space of play and resonance, the text actually provides 3 very strict metaphors for how we must treat this relationship should we ever be lucky enough to find it.
And notice how each metaphor is essentially a warning against the human impulse to control.
Yes. First, it compares the bosom friend to a flower. You can appreciate it, but you must never pluck it.
Because the mechanism of plucking a flower is the transition from appreciation to possession. The moment you decide you want the flower for yourself, like to put it in a vase in your own home.
You sever it from its life source,
Exactly. You literally kill the thing you find beautiful just to call it yours.
which ties perfectly into the second metaphor. The text says a bosom friend is like water. You follow its flow and must not set standards for it.
Think about it. If you try to force a river to flow in a straight, predictable line, you have to build concrete dams and artificial channels.
Right, you destroy the very nature of the water just to make it serve your need for certainty.
And the third metaphor is honey. Sweet and mellow in the soul, but it must not be contaminated with a trace of dust.
And the dust represents the mundane, worldly entanglements we discussed earlier. Right.
Exactly. The arguments about household chores, the petty jealousies, the societal expectations. The moment you introduce the dust of utility into the honey, the purity of the bond is completely spoiled.
This all builds to what I think is honestly the most piercing insight in the entire deep dive. The text establishes the ultimate rule of this intangible space. It says we cannot beg for them, we cannot buy them, we cannot keep them by relationship.
And then it delivers that incredible line.
Yeah, we cannot kidnap them in the name of love.
That phrase alone fundamentally challenges how modern society views romance and deep friendship, kidnapping them in the name of love.
It's so visceral.
It forces us to examine the mechanics of our own affection. Like, how often do we weaponize our love to demand someone's time or attention or conformity?
We do it constantly. We say, I love you so much, therefore you belong to me. You must prioritize me above others. You must act in a way that makes me feel secure.
We confuse the desire to possess someone with the act of loving them.
Yeah, we build a gilded cage, lock them inside so we never have to worry about them leaving, and we justify the cage by calling it love.
And Shuifeng is arguing that this possessive instinct is the absolute antithesis of a bosom friend. True connection in this philosophical framework is entirely elegant, free, and unrestrained.
You must engage with them with absolutely no desire to possess them.
Right.
But, okay, I have to push back on behalf of human nature here.
Go for it.
If you find someone who vibrates on your exact life channel, someone who makes you feel understood without speaking a single word, doesn't every instinct in the human brain scream to hold on to that person?
Oh, of course it does.
We crave certainty. We want to know that the person who brings us this much joy will be there tomorrow. How can anyone experience that level of affection without attaching to it?
Well, you are hitting on the central paradox of the text, and it is a painful one. The text doesn't pretend this is some cold, detached, Zen-like observation of another person from afar.
Right, it's not apathetic.
Not at all. It explicitly states that a bosom friend features an abundance of affection. It is deeply, overwhelmingly emotional. The paradox is that you are required to feel the absolute maximum of human affection while maintaining zero psychological attachment to the source of it.
Which feels nearly impossible. It's like standing in front of the most beautiful painting in the world, feeling it move you to tears, but forcing yourself to walk out of the museum without even taking a photo of it.
That's exactly it. And the text warns us about the danger of failing to do this. It says, "Since times immemorial, affectionate people always suffer the most emotionally."
Because when you attach to the affection, when your ego gets involved and demands that the other person stick around to keep providing that feeling, you open yourself up to what the text calls the parting woe.
Your parting woe, yeah.
And the imagery used to describe this parting woe is just visceral. It doesn't describe a clean break. It talks about waking up from drunken stupors by riverside strewn with willow trees.
Feeling the morning breeze with a waning moon.
Yeah, it describes the agonizing wait for someone who doesn't come, watching flower petals drift aimlessly on flowing water, feeling like the boundless Yang River is separating you.
It is attempting to capture the chaotic, unmanageable pain of a severed attachment. Think about trying to grip water in your fist.
It just slips through your fingers.
Exactly. And you are left with nothing but the exhausting tension in your hand. The text describes this feeling perfectly in its conclusion of the parting woe. It says, cut, severed and sorted, messier still.
Messier still. Wow. That perfectly encapsulates the psychological wreckage of trying to control a connection that was meant to be free.
It really does.
And this brings us to the most challenging pivot in the entire text. Because for the first 3/4 of this philosophy, we've been looking outward.
Wondering where to find this flawless companion, analyzing where they exist and how to treat them.
Right. But then, the text turns the mirror entirely back on the reader.
It introduces a non-negotiable prerequisite.
It states, quote, absolutely beautiful things can only be enjoyed by absolutely beautiful lives. If we do not reach an absolutely beautiful state, it will never be possible for us to enjoy the nourishment of a bosom friend.
This completely shifts the burden of the search. The reason you haven't found a bosom friend isn't just a matter of statistical rarity or bad luck in your social circles.
It's on you.
Yeah, it is because, structurally, you are not yet capable of sustaining the bond without destroying it.
So the entire time we are out in the world, swiping through apps, joining clubs, and lamenting how lonely we are, the text is saying, you aren't worthy of this connection yet.
Exactly. It's not about finding the right person. It's about becoming the right vessel.
But mechanically, how does a person actually achieve this absolutely beautiful state?
Well, it requires a fundamental dismantling of the ego's scarcity mindset. An absolutely beautiful life, in the context of this philosophy, is a life that is entirely self-sufficient in its own joy and security.
So if you are insecure, you'll use the bosom friend for validation.
Right. If you are lonely, you will use them for entertainment. You will introduce the dust of your own unhealed psychology into the honey.
I see.
To reach this beautiful state means you have done the grueling internal work to no longer view other human beings as resources to be consumed.
I mean, that is a staggeringly high bar.
It's immense.
If you haven't achieved that total internal security, then even if the perfect bosom friend walked into your living room today, you would ruin it.
You would immediately try to turn them into a co-pilot.
You would try to pluck the flower.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to handle the freedom the relationship requires. You would start setting standards for the water. The text is basically offering a profound mirror. It asks us to look at our impulses toward possession and recognize them not as signs of deep love, but as signs of our own internal incompleteness.
So as we pull back and look at the vast, challenging landscape Shu Feng has laid out for us today, the picture is incredibly clear, even if it is, difficult to accept.
Very difficult.
We started with the realization that a bosom friend is a connection so transcendent that it alters the very frequency of your life, making art and existence entirely different.
And we learned that we must abandon the search in the transactional spaces of our lives. We cannot look for them within the entangled ecosystems of our workplaces, our families, or our traditional friendships.
Because utility and expectation are the death of pure appreciation.
Right.
We navigated the intangible geography, realizing we have to treat this connection like a flower we never pluck, constantly guarding against our human instinct to kidnap someone in the name of love.
Which is so hard to do.
It is. And ultimately, we arrived at the prerequisite, the grueling internal excavation required to become an absolutely beautiful life that can experience an abundance of affection without falling into the messy, severed chaos of attachment.
It is a journey from outward grasping to internal mastery. And the text leaves us with a highly specific, elevated destination.
It closes with an amazing image.
It does. It says, bosom friends are rare in the world, only abound in Chanyuan. Clambered up the snowy peak and looked over the rivers, the mountain flowers are blooming.
That concept of Chanyuan is so critical here. It's not a physical valley you can just go buy a plane ticket to.
No, it represents a state of elevated consciousness, a spiritual maturity.
It implies that you don't find these connections by wandering through the crowded, dusty markets of entangled interests. You only find them by doing the lonely, difficult work of climbing your own internal snowy peak.
And when you finally reach that vantage point, when you've elevated your own state of being, you don't have to desperately search for the flowers anymore.
You just look out, and they are naturally blooming.
It is a deeply optimistic ending to a very demanding philosophy. It promises that if you do the internal work, the beauty of the world reveals itself effortlessly.
So for you listening, This deep dive is a powerful invitation to audit the mechanics of your own connections today. Look closely at the people you care about. How heavily are those relationships weighted with entangled interests?
Are you trapped in the co-pilot dynamic, secretly keeping score of what they owe you?
And most importantly, are you currently kidnapping anyone in the name of love, demanding they shrink to fit the cage of your expectations?
Okay.
It's a painful question, but an absolutely necessary one.
The friction we feel in our daily relationships often stems from demanding they be something they structurally cannot be. This text gives us permission to let our co-pilots just be co-pilots and to reserve this ultimate, unattached reverence for the rare moments of pure resonance.
Which leaves us with a final shifting thought to mull over. We spent this entire time talking about the rigorous, almost impossible standards required to maintain a connection with another human being without possessing them.
Right, the total non-attachment.
Yeah, we had to be totally unattached, entirely expectation-free, and perfectly secure. But if we think about the mechanics of that, if a bosom friend can only truly exist in a state of absolute, unshakable internal security where you need absolutely nothing from them, does that mean the only true bosom friend you can ever actually rely on and the only beautiful life you can ever fully inhabit is your own?